Blessings to you. We'll go ahead and get right into the reading as we're proceeding. You can check out the playlist right before we say this. It is on YouTube, and it is called Pranic Pages. So today in Jasmuheen's Breatharian Pathways, Memories and Motivations, Insight, Japan. Japan. Konnichiwa, arigato gozaimasu. I gotta go to Japan. I gotta go. It's still on my list. 10 Jingu Shrine, Naiku, Ise, Japan. As I stroll through the beautiful shrines set among nature in Ise, once more I feel the deepest peace of being. Known as a Japanese Lord's or Fatima, Ise holds the energy of the sun goddess, Amaterasu, a feminine energy of great love, peace, and compassion. Wasn't that what Sasuke used to say in Naruto? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't that a move that Sasuke would use? Amaterasu! I didn't even know that was a sun goddess. The sun goddess Amaterasu. It was like a black flame. He would open his eye, the Sharingan. Sasuke would unlock the Mangekyo Sharingan or one of the Sharingans, and he would spread black flame across the battlefield, and I think they called it Amaterasu, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody who's a more of an anime buff can correct me on that. The black flame, I thought it was Amaterasu. There it is. I thought I wasn't tripping. Thank you for all my anime nerds out there. I'm a nerd too. I love that. In the silence of the shrines, I received the message, be silent and you will hear me. Be still and you will feel the ripples of the power of the I am that I am. In the silence all around you, in the stillness of your inner being, you will know all the secrets that I hold. Be still, be silent, and know. Rest lightly in the peace deep within you. Step silently through life, aware of every living being and the breath that brings each life. In the silence, in the stillness, in the stepping lightly, all is known. A few days later, my workshops complete in this land for now. I rest again in meditation until I am drawn once more to pick up this pen and in one day write all of these stories. Effortlessly, the words flow as good stories tend to do when they are ripe and ready, and so this book is born. Right now, across the world, thousands of miles away, I am told that the film In the Beginning There Was Light is receiving standing ovations after its release in Austria. And to this, I can only smile. I remember Saint Germain's energy engulfing me with such love so many years ago when we were first introduced this concept in Germany, and how pranic nourishment is not something reserved for the select India yogis. At that time, it had the usual reaction of disbelief, anger, or awe. At times, I would feel so unable, so untrained, and so inadequate to be a voice in this movement. At that time, Saint Germain told me, time will be your ally. It will be so different in 20 years. You will see. Now, I want to just briefly pause here because we already talked last time about Saint Germain, and I told you who told me. And Janet, you know about Saint Germain, so blessings to the people who understand about ascended masters, these sages, these people throughout time that are timeless and that communicate with people and beings like Jasmuheen, and they use the violet ray, as she talked about, the violet ray, working with these different energies and communicating with them to spread a message that it seemed that Jasmuheen was called to this, right? It was like she was propelled and prodded and poked and pushed by Saint Germain and these ascended masters to spread this consciousness around the world. And it was like something that she couldn't ignore, or at least she couldn't ignore anymore. So yes, the violet flame, you got it. Violet flame. To which I would bemoan 20 years. That's much too long. And yet here we are, 17 years later, and my heart is filled with hope. Is it too much to believe that there is a wise and loving force behind creation? That great love brought creation into being. That great love breeds us and gives us life. And that great love can heal and guide, as so many have attested. Knowing this, is it too difficult to believe that this wise and loving force that exists within and around us can also nourish our physical bodies with their breakfast, lunch, and dinners? Perhaps more time is needed, and as more rise into this every day, I know it will soon become an accepted truth. That reminds me of a quote, I believe it was either by Gandhi or Arthur Schopenhauer. Might have been Arthur Schopenhauer. But it said something to the effect that truth goes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed, right? People laugh at it like, ha, what? Come on now. We can survive without food? Get out of here. Second, it is violently opposed. Get out of here. I don't want to hear it, right? You're an idiot. And third, it is accepted as self-evident. As if, of course. How could it be any other way? Of course, I knew it all along, right? So don't be afraid to speak your truth. Because truth goes through 3 stages. First, they laugh at you. It's ridiculed, chastised. Second, violently opposed. You're going to get opposition. You're going to get it. You keep talking long enough. Third, all right, you got me. In the movie, In the Beginning There Was Light, a question is raised regarding world hunger, and this too was the hook that captured my heart when Saint Germain asked me that question. Could I live with myself knowing this truth, but choosing not to share it with a world where every 2 seconds a child is dying of hunger? So let us finalize these sharings with a few pertinent stories as we continue with our focus of eliminating global hunger. Insight, India, World Hunger Issues. October 2010. Returning to India as often as I do now is easy for me for many reasons. I am an Indian soul in a white woman's body. I learnt to be a Breatharian here. My Cathar country prayers were also answered here. There is much to love about India, and so much the West can learn as India now rises as an upcoming economic power, with its billions of people and deeply spiritual culture. I was not surprised when the Holy Ones invited India to be a test country, to be the first to eliminate its limiting health and hunger issues by using Pranic energy, as outlined in our Madonna Frequency Planetary Peace Program and our Prana program books. Earlier this year, when I was at Kumbh Mela, yogis and sadhus and gurus alike would quietly assess this Western white woman who claimed she lived on prana. Many asked, how? Some laughed, and said how interesting that is. That Western women had come to remind them, as living examples, about an ancient yogic practice that many had forgotten how to do. Others sat back, eyeing us skeptically, or dismissing us altogether. Myself and my fellow prana eater, Erica. Some spoke only Hindu, but heard with their heart. Others shared in fluent English, the deepest teachings of ancient scriptures, as they tried to correlate it with the different words we use. Sometimes it was easier to just point to our bodies and simply say, "This is Atman's body." Yes, they would nod. Atman's Shakti feeds us, I would add. Ah, their eyes would light up with an "of course" response. For prana, as the universal life force, is also Shakti energy, pure love in motion. And with these few words and their deep understanding, they would bow and leave our tented ashram, only to return the next day with a much bigger group of people. India humbles me further. For here, people can feel your love of God and can sense your experience of the divine energy flows. Well-educated and open-hearted meditators, many in India treat the possibility of living purely from prana with great love, respect, and interest, as more are also slowly starting to do in the West. In India, I can rest, feel well-loved and supported, as this paradigm that we have launched in the West slowly becomes more acceptable. In 2006, we launched the Prana program with its third world feeding program, and while we understand how it could be done, at that stage, we'd had very little pragmatic experience of being in third world countries with this exact focus. By 2006, we had delivered to various groups in the United Nations in Vienna and New York City the information of pranic feeding and how pranic feeding could aid in the elimination of global health and hunger issues. Their choice to adopt our research as an additional layer to existing aid programs will always be their choice. In the meantime, we continue to share what we know of this with the open-hearted and open-minded throughout all levels of society. As we have said, India had been invited in the Madana Frequency Planetary Peace Program. Say that 10 times fast. To be the test country, the first to rise with all its strength and wisdom to eliminate health and hunger issues among the children there. And when I shared this recently, I found, again, a reaction of anger when a well-respected yogi that I like stated, "You Westerners think you know India? Our children are fine. They are healthy and happy. And to think otherwise is a Western misconception." He tried to curb his angry response, and I tried to gently share that it was an honor being given and not a criticism, that it is because India has such depth of wisdom and spiritual understanding that those who have been pre-programmed to do this would rise and be living examples to others, just as had happened in the West. Imagine if no more children died in India of hunger-related diseases. Imagine if more remembered these ancient ways of pranic living and how all human systems come into stronger states of health and happiness. When their chi, prana, flow increases. And yet, despite all the love this Indian man has for me, at that moment of our sharing, he did not have the ears to hear what was really being said. It took me a while to learn not to take such reactions personally and to instead step back. Take a big, slow breath and ask the loving universe to let me find the right words and the right energy transmissions to harmoniously fulfill this agenda, while also knowing that you cannot come into India without any agenda at all. Now, I just want to take a quick pause here. Quick pause here and round of applause here for Jasmuheen for not going off in India, for composing herself. Because I remember I had a question, or I had a session with Elitom, and I talked about this before, but we were talking about different people who he would revere and who he would hear and who he took influence from and who inspired him. And one of the people, lo and behold, that really inspired Elitom was Jasmuheen herself. And he said, Jerome, let me tell you, that lady, she a strong lady. She a strong woman. He said, Jerome, when she has the floor, if she's in a group of people, she has the floor. She knows how to keep the floor. He told me, Jasmuheen don't mess around. He said, she ain't no pushover. She don't mess around. So I took those words to heart where he was like, yo, you know, she a nice lady, but she don't mess around. So when I hear these words right here from Jasmuheen saying, I took a step back, I took a big breath, slow breath, and asked the loving universe to let me find the right words and the right energy transmission to harmoniously fulfill this agenda. I can read between the lines. She's saying, don't let me go off, right? Let me compose, let me be in the spirit. Don't let me let them hear it. Let me stay in the spirit. So congrats to you, Jasmuheen, for staying in spirit. India will do with us what India will. She is a wise and loving being, of great depth and wisdom, just like Gaia and spirit of our earth. Of course, Gaia would appreciate us using the world's resources more wisely, just as Indian tradition and the way of love keeps reminding us that we each hold the greatest resource within, and that the more we rely on this endlessly wise and loving internal resource that some call God, the sooner our human hungers will disappear. And so it is, and so it always has been. So the discussion turns again to global harmonics, receiving the gift of the choice of living purely from prana is the result of a personal harmony that comes from pure-hearted union with the divine force within, thus changing the way a body utilizes energy. Now is the time also of utilizing energy collectively in more harmonious ways in our world in general. The environmental impact of this is potentially explosive, yet there are intermediary steps to take that we outline clearly in our free Embassy of Peace program. Still, it is painfully evident to all that we need to find better ways of being that consume less of our world's resources, or that we use our world's resources more equitably. With this in mind, in 2006, my inner plane light, Being Friends, began to connect me with various indigenous tribes, particularly in South America, tribes who know the secrets of harmonious coexistence with Gaia, our Mother Earth. Blending our knowledge and supporting each other, we have found another rich layer over the last few years. As I share their stories as I travel through this world, the Kogi and Arhuaco tribes of Colombia remind us of the need for equilibrium, to honor the earth as a living being, and also to follow the laws of the Divine Mother in all of her forms. Tribes in the Amazon jungle teach those who come to them of the secrets of sacred power plants and the rituals they have, to strip away the worlds of illusion so that we can walk unified as a species and in harmony with the land. which often requires great sensitivity. The people of Brazil's favelas teach of the need to stop the gossip, the rape, and violence that can pull a community apart, while they themselves are the target of violence during police raids that use outdated methods to deal with drug lords who hold monetary power. Yet still, the favelas hold a richness of life and laughter. People's hunger expresses itself in many ways: physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Yet, it is our hunger for self-knowledge that drives us to be free, and that many in the West can learn from. It is a time of self-sovereignty, self-knowledge, and freedom from limitation. Just as my Indian friend told me, regardless of Western perception, many children in India are healthier in spirit and heart than many children in the West, despite sometimes having a minimalist physical food diet. Experiential knowledge of our superior self, the divine one within, reveals to us an energy so pure and so nourishing that it can literally eliminate all human hunger. And this, in essence, has always been the message of our global work. And with this message, we will continue. Each one of us has so many stories, memories, and motivations. Some yogis sit in caves or on a mountaintop, radiating out through the world, the love and wisdom from that endless source within. Others walk in Western clothes as yogis in the city. Some sit in the silence and stillness of meditation only to find themselves in deep communion with our interdimensional friends of love and light. Some cross the lines of times to glimpse, relive, or remember things they need to know from past or future timelines that in the higher realms run in simultaneous patterns. Some simply love, and in the loving, all the truth they need to know is known. The choice, we know, is ours. Now, I want to just take a brief pause, because when I read this, I'm reminded, crossing the lines of times to glimpse and relive and remember, to remember things that they need to know from past or future timelines that in the higher realms run in simultaneous patterns. Like this language, of these timelines and crossing the bridge and bridging these worlds and these gaps and interdimensional planes and planes of existence. Jasmuheen is one of the people that really inspired me when it came to a new fictional book that I just put out. And the book is called The Breatharians, because there was a time when I started this journey in particular where I was ritualistically listening every day to Jasmuheen's meditations. And in her meditations, she would talk about the inner planes and just going beyond, but within, like going inside and finding that there's interdimensional planes of existence inside on the inner planes, like riding the waves of these dimensions, like it was just blowing me away, her language and her lexicon and her knowledge of just the all that is, these parallel realities. So I put a lot of that influence into the new book that I just put out called The Breatharians, Trials of the Transceiver. If you read that book, it's now out on Amazon. It's free. If you have Kindle, it's free for Kindle users. And it has a lot of those themes from Jasmuheen, if you know what I mean. What has been achieved? Sometimes we do things that push people's buttons of awareness. As we challenge the many limited beliefs we all still hold on Earth. The alternative is to stay silent and accept society with all its limitations and to stay within the boxes of behavior people want each other to be in. For some of this is possible. For some, this is possible. For others, this is impossible. as something so wrong or so strong within us pushes us into a new rhythm. Even now, I still think about the 3 people who died over 10 years ago around the 21-day Living on Light initiation process, and how I used to wish that their deaths had never occurred. And yet, I cannot control when people die or how, or the rhythms that push people from somewhere deep inside to rise up and break out of limited patterns, or to answer the call to be part of an evolutionary path that stands before us, that is so immensely freeing and grand, a path that beckons us to know the divine essence within all and to also receive its gifts. These things are not for me to control, for it is not a time of trying to control one another. It is a time of knowing and enjoying ourselves, of choosing the path of love, not fear, of education, not ignorance, of honor and respect for each other, rather than judgment and disdain. Now, I love that. You know, it reminds me of, there is no emotion, there is peace. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no chaos, there is harmony. There is no death, there is the Force. There was like a Jedi code or a Jedi credence where the Jedi would recite in Star Wars, the Star Wars mythology of Star Wars. Even though it's a fictional universe, the Jedi Order, they adopted this code or these principles that they would recite over and over to the Padawans and the Jedi Knights and, you know, the people of the Jedi Council. And it was saying there was no emotion, there is peace. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no chaos, there is harmony. There is no death, there is the Force. And they recited this to the Jedi over and over until they memorized it and realized that, yeah, the truth of the Force, that there is no death, there's only the Force. So yeah, I enjoy that. It is a time of seeking harmony among us and resolutions to conflict that deliver beneficial outcomes to us all. Of sitting down with family and friends, if required, and lovingly communicating our concerns until a problem is resolved in a way that serves us all. Regardless of the thoughts of the inexperienced observers of our work, as it unfolds in the world, the majority of those who gather with me are bright and intelligent people. They do not seek gurus, nor are they naive and ready to be led astray by some charismatic person. They, like myself and many others, have reached a point in their lives where they have asked, is the reality I have created really serving myself? And is it beneficially serving all in this world? If the answer is no, then they seek ways to change their model of reality until it is. And if the answer is yes, then they seek to gather with others to share and combine their energies so that together we can enjoy a different harmony, which is the unifying rhythm of love in our world. Now, briefly, I want to touch on this because when she's talking about, is the reality I've created really serving myself, and is it beneficially serving all in the world? Now, this is a great question because I remember when I seen an interview with Jasmuheen, and this was before I was even born. She was doing interviews with people on television, getting ridiculed and chastised and criticized and judged, and she was doing all this stuff before I was even born. And Jasmuheen was on the set of one of these interviews with a lady, and on camera, you know, the lady, she was like acting really, you know, empathetic and loving and compassionate and kind to Jasmuheen. But off camera, when the camera seemingly stopped rolling, I don't know who was still rolling, but on this video I watched, it was like a side conversation that they captured where Jasmuheen was still trying to talk to the lady, and the lady, she could have nothing to do with Jasmuheen. She was totally disregarding her, totally just like as she wasn't even sitting next to her. Like she just kind of turned off. There was an on and off switch. The lady just turned off on Jasmuheen. But Jasmuheen was still talking. And Jasmuheen was not being deterred. She was not being, perturbed or disturbed by this lady's disregard. And Jasmuheen continued to say things that she felt that people who wanted to align to the pranic frequency must adhere to in her guidelines that she made up for herself. And one of the guidelines I'll always remember was service. Jasmuheen, while the cameras weren't rolling, almost was whispering, because she knew that the lady had tuned her out. She wasn't even listening, but she was practically talking to me. She knew she was talking to somebody. She might not have known that decades later, Jerome Shaw would be sitting in his living room listening to her and hear the moment she told this lady who wasn't listening, service. Acts of service to humanity is part of the Breatharian message, part of the pranic frequency, and keeps you in the pranic wavelength, the Breatharian bandwidth. What you do frequently, or what you do frequently becomes your frequency. So if you're frequently in service, no need to be nervous. If you're frequently in service, then you know your purpose. If you're frequently in service, you know that you're worth it. If you're frequently in service, you know you deserve it, right? So, blessings to you, Jasmuheen. Thank you so much for sending that message, because I received it. Even if that lady you were sitting next to didn't perceive it, your boy Jerome Shaw received it. Most people who come to be with us choose to be well informed and have learnt to check things via the internet and trust their intuitive guidance. Now, you can't see this, but she spelled internet, she spelled it internet. I love this. As in meditation, right? Your intuitive guidance, you go in. You've heard this before, right? I'm preaching to the choir. You've heard this. They say, when you don't go within, you go without, right? You heard of that, right? So the internet, not the internet, not the ethernet, the internet. I love that. Still with the movie In the Beginning There Was Light, released during 2010 in major world cinemas, and interest and also skepticism around the possibility rising again. It has been beneficial to look at exactly what we have achieved these past 17 years, despite our media challenges. I'm sure there have been many. In our book, The Prana Program, we shared that my role with this was as follows. 1, discover the Prana Program's gifts and live it all experientially, thus proving to myself, beyond a doubt, its infinite possibilities as outlined in all of our books. This is a journey I intuitively began preparation for as a child, and now I realize a lot longer time before that again. 2, research all that I could on the subject, write about it, and offer my research to the world in a pragmatic and simple way as possible. This included researching and simplifying data in the ancient and hidden mystery schools. Need to learn more about these mystery schools. And personally undergoing various alchemical initiations. 3, be a bridge regarding the Prana Program between the Eastern understanding and my own experience of prana, and introduce the benefits of increasing the pranic flow as widely as possible to the West in a way that supports the Paradise agenda. 4, find and support other proponents of this. Hira Ratan Manek, you might know him as HRM, famous sun gazer. Zenaida Baranova, the Bigu states in the Qigong networks, and introduce their methodologies through our networks. 5, be a media spokesperson for the Prana Program. Via holistic education principles, utilize the media to anchor the Prana Program reality in the morphogenetic field. 6, set up both internet and internet community systems, communication systems to share our research en masse as per my constant touring, books, websites, and YouTube channel. I like that. She set up the internet communication systems. 7, introduce the Prana program and its benefits through political networks. Formulate an effective program to combine and share our research with existing aid and resource redistribution programs via the United Nations and others. Wow, y'all ain't messing around. Over the last decade, we have achieved points 1 to 7 and have been supported by great grace, as we always are when we fulfill our blueprint. It was not in my blueprint to give a year or 2 of my time, as Hira Ratan Manek, the solar gazer, has done, to personally be involved with extensive medical and scientific testing. Yet, it was in my blueprint to act as a cosmic reporter and share the results of Hira's testing, which has essentially proven the same thing, that a person can access through prana as an alternate form of nourishment, so that they are free from the need to take physical food. With all of this accomplished, it is so nice to know now. So nice to now move on to the more pragmatic applications of the agendas of the Embassy of Peace, knowing that people will experience this freedom of pranic living in their own time, when their resonance is right and when their hearts are open to such things. Fulfilling our pre-agreed agendas as joyously and with as much integrity as we can is always such a satisfying thing to do, even though it is sometimes tempting to look back and see easier pathways to achieve it all. Still, we do what we can as best as we can in any given moment, and from all of this, we grow and learn. Breathers of God. My learning continues. With each book I write that covers anything on the pranic nourishment reality, I always say to myself that it will be the last one, as we have released more than enough information on this to intelligently assist in the global education of this paradigm. Still, I am personally amazed at how much I am continuing to learn about pranic living and its aspects of living on light. Through all of this, I have always seen myself more as a work in progress. So am I. A walking experiment, plus a researcher and reporter on this paradigm. I have always been happy to just play with my own personal energy rhythms as I have sought to understand and then share more of the science of living on pranic energy streams and its global benefits. Being open to play, explore boundaries, and experiment can reveal many interesting things. I have never felt comfortable using the word breatharian to describe myself this life, as while I am free from the need to take physical food, I have not gone without fluid for months at a time. I also find the term breatharian misleading. Everyone is a breather of the God force, so to speak, or we wouldn't even have life, as something is breathing us. Calling it God or the quantum field is irrelevant. We are still being breathed. Over our time on Earth, we have been educated into accepting many limiting paradigms, including the idea that we can only receive our nourishment from physical food. For people who have not yet experienced the nourishing flow of the inner light streams that can blossom in someone whose focus is on ascension or divine union, then the idea that this force can feed us can be challenging. The term breatharian is usually now applied to someone who is said to never eat food or drink, yet those of us on this path are being fed. So we do eat, but we just eat in a different way. Instead of physical food, we eat cosmic microfood. In my understanding, this occurs via the process of interdimensional energy field magnetics and the law of resonance. Ironically, the discovery of my personal timeline history, including my breatharian life in India, has allowed me to now claim the use of this word, as I have lived life as a true breatharian. With decades of experiential research into this field during this current life, I have still not yet embraced the true breatharian path and completely stopped drinking. Yet, it is strangely comforting to know now that I was a living example of this in another time. I realize that this claim may sound strange to anyone who is still unsure of the past life reality paradigm, yet reincarnation just goes back to the fact that energy cannot be created or destroyed, and that it just changes form. And we are systems of energy. Thankfully, meditation allows us to experience our infinite eternal nature, that same nature that I discovered in the 1970s that can take away our hungers if we are open to this idea. Now, I love this because, Jasmuheen is talking about meditation allowing us to experience our infinite eternal nature. And it reminds me of Avatar: The Last Airbender, where Avatar Aang is going back to consult with, the previous generations of avatars. He's talking to Avatar Roku. He's chopping it up with Avatar Kuruk. He's chopping it up with Avatar Yang Chen, chopping it up with Avatar Kiyoshi, chopping it up with all these avatars, just kicking it back, right? Getting the knowledge. And he's doing it through meditation. And I'm wondering to myself, why can't we? So Jasmuheen is saying just that. In 1973, I was a straight A student and school captain with a world is my oyster type future before me. While attending university and living a conventional life was my expected path. Instead, I found a much stronger call to enter ashram life, as I was being pushed by a creative force that rose up fast within me via my daily meditation upon it. From 1973 to 1993, my 20-year walk with meditation in life slowly tuned me to the other channels in the matrix, as my chosen yogini lifestyle opened up other doors in my life. The discovery of other ways of being has been intoxicating on so many levels, and things have come into being in my life that have surpassed my wildest dreaming. In 1973, I could never have imagined such fields of possibility ever being available to myself as a human being, and I would not have believed it if I had been told so. I can still empathize with the skeptical. To me, the key to this realm of beingness has been meditation, as meditation is known to expand conscious awareness. Now, this is pretty much all Ellie Tom would ever tell us. He would tell us over and 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 over again that meditation is always the foundation. Meditation is medication, right? Meditation to raise vibration, meditation to let go of frustration, meditation to shift location, right? Bilocation, teleportation, telecommunication, meditation. So, this is what we're hearing right now in the nation, that it all circles back to meditation. In meditation, meditation can also allow us to understand both sequential and simultaneous time flows. In meditation, we can be time and also timeless. As when we meditate, we merge with our infinite self, and our brainwave patterns change to reveal so many additional layers in the matrix of creation. Layers that remain hidden if our brainwave patterns stay in the busy beta frequency field. The irony of all of this is that while I can now finally comfortably claim this breatharian word, the remembrance of all of this happened at a time when I found myself slowly beginning to explore transitioning back into denser frequencies again. This also was to be a short-lived but interesting experiment, the results of which are worth sharing here in the following update. To me, ascension is descension, and many are now being guided to stop their cosmic wanderings and be fully present to assist with the current global changes. This has also been my guidance over the past few years. All right. Timelines and updates. 1973 to 2006. As many are aware, my initial experience of this freedom came in June 1993, after 20 years of living a highly disciplined and specialized lifestyle that was committed to meditation, service, and satsang. In 1993, a few months after I stopped taking physical food, the Holy Ones soon invited me to also let go of taking physical fluid for me to be the true Breatharian. Maybe if I had known about my Indian life, where I had already lived like this, I may have felt more comfortable with their invitation. But in mid-1993, I was still dealing with the surprise that this no need to take physical food thing had even happened. Plus, I was still adjusting to the social aspects that came with this change. Also, my motivation in undergoing the 21-day process was never about eating or not eating. My interest then was only on ascension. Ironically, I had no interest in Breatharianism, and yet all of this had probably made me the perfect candidate for my inner plane friends. Additionally, in 1993, I wanted the letting go of fluid to be a joyous and natural experience for me. Something that happened organically, without discipline or effort, and I still feel this way. Developing new systems. In 1998, we began publicly distancing ourselves from the 21-day process, as we had discovered that up to 70% of people who read my Living on Light, Pranic Nourishment book were not following the guidelines within it. Many also felt that the 21-day initiation was a bit too extreme. It is important also to realize that the energy on our planet in 1993 was very different to what it is today, and many are now safely transitioning into living purely on prana without using such an extreme initiation, like the 21-day process. Although this initiation was incredibly fulfilling for myself and many others, it doesn't suit or work for everyone. Due to these facts, from 1998 to 2002, we worked closely with our German audiences to develop a safer system of conversion, which we offered in the book, The Food of Gods. Although much slower, the system we now promote has a much higher long-term success rate, as it allows for a longer social and emotional adjustment period of time. As I journeyed around the world, sharing my experiences regarding this phenomenon, working intensely with many groups, and engaging with the global media, I soon began to encounter a few personal difficulties from being exposed to so many different energy fields. I could imagine. After asking for help in dealing with this, Saint Germain introduced me to various bioshield devices, including the violet light cocoon, used as a shield of selectivity to minimize the absorption of energies that do not serve us. The violet light cocoon can also act as an external brain that interacts with the quantum field to allow us to be more in the now moment, reality, flow, which the yogis always promote. To me, being able to relax enough in life to be fully present in each moment comes from living life by the laws that govern the higher light science and higher dimensional harmonics. This is big stuff. This is big stuff we're talking about. During this time, the inner plane higher light scientists also began to instruct me in the use of etheric feeding devices, which I later recorded in meditation format for others to apply along with the violet light cocoon creation, plus the advanced programming codes that work with this. It was the success of these etheric feeding devices that would later also free me from any attachment I had developed to living purely on prana. Strangely enough, as we are about to explain, Sometimes we learn even more in the not doing than in the doing experience. When I first began meditating in the early 1970s, I had no idea of the power of these subtle inner energy flows until a year later, when I didn't meditate for a while. At that time, daily meditation had made me detached, calm, peaceful, able to assess life differently. Yet, this change in me had happened so gradually, almost unnoticeably. Then, for a few months, in 1974, I stopped meditating and slowly became more influenced by the outer world again. It was then that I realized just how different I had become through daily meditation, which had made me feel fulfilled on so many levels. I mention this because the changes that occurred in my body in the first decade of living purely on prana were so subtle, even though they gave me great freedom. They were also changes that I didn't notice so much until I began to eat a little again a few years after my experience in the Amazon jungles of Brazil in late 2006. As so many know, I have never been dogmatic about eating or not eating. Instead, I have always kept the focus of what gifts can divine union bring us when we merge fully with that pure and perfect essence within. Nonetheless, in 1993 until mid-2009, I rarely chose to take any physical food, but what happened in the jungle changed me. And we'll go ahead and we'll stop right here. We'll leave it there for now, as we're discovering how, with these mini pranic readings as we've been proceeding, the knowledge we're feeding, getting all that we're needing, understanding what has been demanding, understanding all that we can. Much love to you. You are in divine plan, and I trust that you will continue to build that light within you. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. My friend, keep that grateful, thankful spirit, and I trust that the rest of your life, and the breath of your life, will be the best of your life. My friend, this has been Jerome Shaw, host of the TOP, the Open Palm Podcast. Wherever yours are played, you'll find that one. Check out the website that we have for you now, all things Pranic Living, Breatharianism. It is called patreon.com/Pranic Path. Multiple audios, videos, and books just like this for your viewing, your reading pleasure. Much love. It is always a treasure. One more time, that website for you is patreon.com/Pranic Path. And there's so much for you to dig into. So blessings. Take care. Stay aware. This has been the Pranic Pages. We'll see you soon. Stay in tune.